This is March 3rd, 2012, to another edition of Civil Discourse Now. I'm Mark Small. My co-host is Paul Ogden.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Paul. We are shooting this show, as we always do, at not always, usually, at Big Hat Books in Broad Ripples, 6510 Cornell Avenue. Our audience is here watching the show with us. Big Hat Books has a bunch of really good books to buy. One of them is Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail in 1972, written by late Hunter S. Thompson. Excellent analysis of presidential political campaign. Hilarious and also rather a lot of good insights. This bookstore is in Broad Ripple. It's on the north side of Indianapolis. There's an art gallery on the upper level. On the second floor, they've got art for sale there. It's the G.C. Lucas Gallery displays things there. Paul, do you want to tell the audience something about the show?
Sure. The show is Civil Discourse Now. It's a show where we discuss local, state, national, international issues, and we hopefully bring a civil discussion of the issues to the audience. Hopefully an intellectual approach where we don't talk over one another.
That's true. There are only two rules in the show. One, you can't talk over another person, and two, you can't wear stripes. And that's
no writing on the walls.
And no writing on the walls.
That's a party fight.
Do you want to give a disclaimer, Paul?
Oh, well, I do want to give a disclaimer, Mark, but as I pointed out earlier this week, the rule with regard to judicial candidates, I believe I've been saying that you're not supposed to talk about anything that might appear, any issue that might come before the court.
And why would that be germane?
Because I'd like to talk about issues. But having read because I'm a candidate for the Superior Court. Having reread the rules regarding candidates as opposed to judges, though, I found that was actually a little bit different. It actually encourages you to take positions on issues, but you can't make pledges or make promises regarding the outcome of the case. So I can't say, if you come to traffic court, I would not find you guilty, Mark. So. Okay,
and let's be clear. Paul is running against the slate of the Republican Party here in Marion County, and so if he were to win the
I was moving away from it.
Yeah, a lot of people do that, John.
If he were to win the primary and then win the election, because win the primary, there are no third party
well, there could be third party. It could be libertarian. There might be a write-in candidates, but 20 people get elected. Democrats nominate 10. Republicans nominate 10. So basically, you win the primary, there's an awful good chance.
And then you'd be out at traffic court.
Probably.
So
because they vote on where you go.
And Paul would not be like. I think you need to move in here, Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, we wanted to distance ourselves from you, but not so much as to put you out of the shot.
But Mark, I have another presentation actually. Being my friend, I occasionally give my friends gifts. Otherwise, they won't continue being my friend. So, baseball season's coming up. I had a book that I read last year, an excellent book on a gentleman who pitched for the Providence Grays back in 1884. Back then, they had about a 110-game season, had two pitchers, and they would pitch every other day. Well, the starting pitcher, the star pitcher, actually got injured, and this guy took over and pitched the rest of the season by himself every game, virtually every inning. It's called 59 and 84 because he won 59 games in 1884, pitched them to the equivalent and to win the equivalent of the World Series back then. So there you go, Mark.
Paul, thank you very much.
That's for baseball season. Sorry, John, I didn't get you in.
It's okay.
And we're going to introduce our guest, John, and the topic for the show. I was going to give you something. There was a subpoena, but it's not matter. It's not related to the show, okay. And I wouldn't want it to change the mood at all.
But that's the type of book you can get here at Big Hat Books.
It is, because they have really arcane books that are really kind of neat. And I bought one on baseball downstairs that was about the beginning. It was the Garden of Eden in baseball, and it was talking about the early days of the starting of baseball. Now, we've said enough about baseball, which is a hopeless topic for me because the Cubs are going to suck this year, and that's my team. It's not even, we're just looking at next year, this year, and the season hasn't even started. Our guest is John Easter. John has been on the show before. Welcome back, John.
Thank you, Mark.
John blogs regularly on, is it Indie Democrat?
IndieDemocrat.blogspot.com.
And a lot of interesting blogs and posts and discussion on that. And our topic today is about Super Tuesday and generally also the presidential primaries. Super Tuesday occurs this Tuesday, March
6th.
March 6th. I knew it was Tuesday. The states that are holding primaries or caucuses are Ohio, where 63 delegates are at issue, Georgia, 76, Tennessee, 55, Virginia with 46. And these are all delegates of the Republican Party, because I don't think we're really going to talk about the competition in the Democratic presidential primaries.
It's going to be tight. I think it's going to be real tight this year.
Virginia has 46, Oklahoma has 40, Massachusetts has 38, Vermont has 17, which is 15 more than the total number of Republicans in the state. Then I think it's North Dakota,
and
Idaho. I punched a hole in it when I was putting it in the binder, and Alaska. Those all have caucuses, and those vary in the nature, the way in which they do the caucuses. And some of these states have proportional primaries, which means candidates get the proportional number of delegates based on the votes, unless some of them have provisions that if one candidate gets 50% or more of the vote, they get all the delegates.
And let me pick up on that. There is actually a Republican rule adopted apparently 4 years ago, or maybe it was 2 years ago when they had a convention. They have a convention every 2 years that says that states cannot do winner-take-all primaries, caucuses before April 1st. Some of them do that, and those delegates can actually be challenged when they go to the convention. But the thing is, whenever you have a delegate challenge, who decides? Well, the majority decides, and if the majority's Romney, then he's obviously going to say winner take all if that's a state he won.
And some of these states also, the delegates are morally obligated. I like how some of the statutes read. They're morally obligated to vote for the candidate that they said that they were going to vote for at the convention, the nominating convention. And I just kind of find that rather peculiar. They're morally obligated, but well, they might find some obligation is greater than the moral obligation.
I don't know if you saw an article, it was written a few weeks ago, where Ron Paul was actually claiming he has more delegates than Romney had. And the explanation was, for example, in the caucus states, they vote who they want to support for president, and then a lot of people leave, then they decide who the delegates are going to be. And so the Ron Paul people, what the article was saying is that they're actually kind of sticking around and getting selected delegates, and they may not be voting for Romney. They may vote for Ron Paul instead.
They may vote for Ron Paul instead. Right. So it's kind of a stealth. Let's look at Super Tuesday in terms of its effect on we're looking at the delegate counts right now. Delegate counts right now, Romney has 135, Gingrich 32, Santorum 9, and Paul 9. And then
I'm sorry, what was your count, Mark?
With 135, 32, 19, and 9. And Huntsman had 2, but those were crossed out somehow. I don't know how that works.
And I have a different count.
I wouldn't doubt
New York Times, I got Romney with 150, Santorum with 85, Gingrich with 20, Ron Paul with 18.
Well, this was on the 2nd that I wrote down these numbers.
But that leads to the point that these things are pretty fluid. They move from one category to another, and you don't really know for sure how many delegates you got. It's not as black and white as it
we still don't know who for sure won the Iowa caucus.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, Maine,
it was
actually.
Well, in Maine too, but you know, at first on election night we thought it was Romney that won the Iowa. Then all of a sudden we thought it was Santorum, and now they're saying we may never know who won the Iowa caucus. So, I mean, that just goes to tell you how much of a mess some of these caucuses and primaries are.
Well, and some of the caucuses, I mean, they have a caucus on one day countywide, then they go statewide, then they go to the national convention, and so it could be all flummoxed by the time they get there. The states that we're looking at here on Tuesday, I look at some of these delegate counts, and like, I look at Georgia has 76 delegates, and Ohio has 63. If I'm not mistaken, Ohio has a lot more people than Georgia has. Its population is greater. So why does Georgia get more delegates?
Ohio might have been penalized. Some of these states have been penalized and have lost delegates because they moved their primary up. But I wouldn't think they'd be penalized for moving it to Super Tuesday.
Yeah, I think they were penalized.
Washington was penalized.
Yeah, but it's like
today.
Theirs is today, and I know Florida was penalized. But especially if the Republicans want a state like Ohio, and it's so crucial, it would seem to me that they wouldn't want to irritate people there.
Right.
Well, a lot of these states are going to be critical in the general election. You talk about a state like Ohio that may determine the outcome of the presidential race. Virginia is another one that Obama won in 2008 that, right now there's all sorts of controversy going on there within their state legislature. But then there are some other big states like Georgia and it's going to be, it could become more muddy after this, because a lot of these states are in the South, and Newt Gingrich has thought that he may actually have a comeback in some of these southern states. So this could muddy the waters even more. Santorum kind of had his push. Who knows? Gingrich may come back, and then the story in the media will be, oh, is Gingrich back again?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Wasn't it? I think Joe Scarborough said, when there's a nuclear, if there's ever a nuclear attack, you'll have Cher, cockroaches, and Newt Gingrich still around, and I think that's very, very true, because that's why he's hung in, I think, this long, is so that he could get to Super Tuesday.
Well, I think it's interesting that cockroaches actually have been on the moon. There was a cockroach found in the LEM, and so if that's the case, then
He's moon colony.
Yeah, I know. So
Works out.
They're kind of like an advanced manifestation of his views. So
We're going to have a show on moon colony, because I want to oppose you on that. We should never stop going to the moon.
well, that's a good point. Except
Maybe not establish a state up there, but we shouldn't have stopped going to the moon.
it costs a lot of money to go to the moon. It's not like you can just.
But the idea that who does the moon belong to? That's the other thing. If we want to go up there and establish a state on the moon, does that mean that that is the?
Don't agree with that part.
I thought like
Doesn't belong to anybody. It's like Antarctica.
I thought an enterprising corporation could do something like put their logo on the moon. So you look up and it says Tang.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, the moon, sponsored by GoDaddy.
All right. Ohio. Polls are showing Santorum is leading in that state, though it looks like Romney's closing in on that. I don't know if he's doing the same scorched earth strategy he's used before.
Well, and that's interesting because there's more blue-collar vote in Ohio, but if you look at what happened in Michigan, and the past is a predictor of the future, Romney outspent Santorum in Michigan. I think the final tally was 6-1, and he only won by 3 points in one of his 10 home states. And so you also have an Ohio where maybe the Republican primary is something of a gauge because everybody's really angry at the governor there, and that might be a spillover effect.
Yeah, just real quick, I think you look at Ohio and you talk about Romney spending all this money to win Michigan. That's a luxury that he has that nobody else does, but it's going to hurt him, I think, in the general.
I think we'll run out of time on the first segment. We'll be right back.
Store, national chain, will give you in a box for it for free.